Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Scorpion Cigar Reviews. Today I will be reviewing the Pinar Del Rio Habano Sun-Grown Liga Cubana number 5. This is a 5x54 Robusto. Nice firm pack, slight bit of sponginess, just ever so slight as it should be. Wrapper is kind of what I would refer to, I guess, as a saddle brown in color. Has well, I guess a medium amount of veins. I've seen more, I've seen less. But what really stands out is I can actually see a few places where there is a stem beneath the wrapper. 2 or 3 places I can see it. May not be a big issue. Seams are nice and tight. They almost completely disappear. This is a double cap cigar. Let's see how the banding is applied. This has 2 different bands. Has the Pinar Del Rio band, and then it has the Liga Cubana number 5 band. A little trouble getting that. There it goes. And carefully. It doesn't seem to have been any issue. Wasn't overly glued. Wasn't sticking to the cigar wrapper at all. So there it is. Has a very it's an interesting feel. Almost feels like soft, polished, fine leather, like maybe an Italian leather shoe. Other than you can feel a little bit of the vein underneath it, but the wrapper itself, aside from the veins and the stems, very, very soft and fine leather-like. Has scents on the nose of some tea, a little bit of fresh tobacco in there, a little bit of cedar. Carries over into the foot. Spanish cedar and some, maybe like a chili powder type of spice. Alright. Using my double guillotine cutter. Wrapper has a very spicy tobacco taste to it, almost like chewed tobacco. That kind of spiciness that lingers in the back of your throat. Pre-draw, once again, has the almost a chew tobacco type of taste to it. Lots of spice going on in there. It's wonderful. There's a lot going on just on the pre-draw. Picking up the chili powder once again. Other spice in there, I'm not sure what it is. Very good. Alright, so we'll get this lit up and see what happens from there. I'm in the first third of this cigar, about 20 minutes into it, including the several minutes I was out down into the basement resetting the breaker. But anyway. When I lit the foot, I was getting a lot of pepper, really. I was getting that spicy, like a chew tobacco taste. And the rear of the palate worked its way about mid-palate, lingered there for quite a while, dissipated on the mid-palate, but stayed in the rear palate for a long, long time, several minutes. Very long on the finish with that kind of spicy chew tobacco flavor. It's a very full body, full of flavor. Bit of a power kick as I just enter the first third. Mellowed a little bit just as it transitioned from the initial lighting into the first third. There was just this real burst of power that came through. Starting to burn a little bit unevenly, a little bit of waviness going on there. Not a big deal. Looks like it might be trying to correct itself. It's just wavy now, really. It was uneven a moment ago. Light gray ash. Looks to be a little bit loose. I don't think it'll hold on very long. I'll probably have to ash it momentarily here. Smoke's a little dry. So I'll continue through this first third, get somewhere into the second third, and I'll be back. I'm pairing tonight's cigar with several different drinks, actually. One of which is a cognac. It's the Courvoisier cognac, very special. This bottle is empty. I have decanted it, as I often do with my cognacs. But this is a very refreshing, clean cognac. Goes rather nicely with most of my cigars. But in addition to the cognac, I'm also drinking a Starbucks house blend coffee, which I'm finding is going really well with the cigar. And finally, with a Virginia-based wine from the Williamsburg Winery. This is the 2011 2 Shilling Red. This is it's a very good wine. I've had this several times. Full-bodied red, a little bit of spice to it, a little bit of oak. Very pleasant. It's a very dark wine. And it is going quite well with the cigar as well. So, having a hard time deciding of the three which is the perfect match. But we'll just go back and forth from one to the other and sampling the drinks with the cigar as I go. Well into the first third of this cigar. It is once again burning unevenly. I did ash it. It had a rather substantial crack in the ash right at the transition from the foot to the first third. Gave a little flick, it came off nicely. But the ash is quite loose, and as I mentioned, burning unevenly. It's a very light gray ash, rather flaky. The burn is not as it should be, but it's, you know, not necessarily an issue. A lot of smoke output. Cigar's mellowing out a little bit. It's still full body, but it's on the lower end of full, approaching medium side. Some flavors are starting to come forward. Quite pleasant. The initial lighting put out a lot of power and a lot of pepper. It's nice to see that it's mellowing out a little bit. picking up some parchment in there, maybe a little bit of leather. Very pleasing. So I'll get well into the second third, and I'll be back. The cigar is progressing rather nicely. Nice transitions from initially it was fairly strong, very forward flavors of the pepper. It's mellowed out quite a bit. It's more of a medium to full-bodied smoke at this point as I'm just entering the second third. Still burning really unevenly, as you can see right there. I'll probably go ahead and correct this. Starting to pick up a little bit of leather, a little bit of parchment, some roasted meat, perhaps. Really pleasing. It's has a pretty wide flavor profile at this point. Starting to get a little bit of creaminess in the mouth, a little bit of dryness as well. Really mellowing out. Clean burning. I'm not getting any kind of staining or anything. No, there aren't any nasty juices coming out or anything. Seems to be a well-constructed cigar, other than, as I mentioned, that there were a couple of stems in here, but they haven't seemed to impaired the smoking experience at all. Really nice. So I'll go ahead and I'll correct this burn, and I'll come back somewhere in the final third. Entering the final third. The creaminess is still there. Dryness is starting to dissipate. Still there, but it's being overcome by the creaminess of the smoke. Almost an oily smoke in the mouth. Parchment paper. A little bit of leather. There seems to be, in my opinion, I could be wrong about this, but there seems to be perhaps two levels of the Pinar Del Rio brand, one of which uses a brightly colored, very modern looking band, and I've had a few of those. I don't want to say anything negative about them necessarily, but I don't enjoy them as much as the Pinar Del Rios that have a more classic styled wrapper. The character on the more classic styled wrapper, such as this, there seems to be a lot more character to them. There's a lot of flavors that come forward, as well as some subtle flavors. I find that these are a lot more pleasing than the brightly colored banded Pinar Del Rios. They simply say PDR on the band, but the classic styled wrapper, it's a much darker wrapper. It seems to be a more classic design, and I'm finding that with the more classically banded Pinar Del Rios, it's a for me anyway, a more pleasant cigar. Has a wider flavor profile, nice transitions from one flavor to the next. Cigar is holding up fairly nicely. I did correct the burn. Seems to be holding up nicely since I corrected the burn. A little bit of unevenness, but I don't think I corrected it completely. We'll see what happens. As I mentioned, I have 3 different types of beverage going on. Each beverage enhances the cigar in a different way. I guess that would be expected. The 2 shilling red while it's, I mentioned it was a full body. I guess it's really leans more towards the medium body, maybe medium full body on the wine. It was very even keeled with the medium to full body characteristic of the cigar. So there's they go together very nicely. They bring out a little bit different flavor characteristics in the cigar, as well as the cigar bringing out different flavor characteristics of the wine. We'll experiment here. Smoke seems very smooth and silky with the 2 shilling red. As I move to the house blend Starbucks coffee, a little something different going on, a little bit of maybe some mineral, very, very subtle, short on the finish. Some parchment paper in there, slight hint of leather. Coffee goes very well with the cigar as well. From there, I'll move on to the cognac. As I mentioned, the cognac sort of cleanses the palate. Helps to enhance some of the spiciness in the cigar. A little bit of pepper on the retrohale, as well as deep, way back in the palate, short on the finish. Definitely brings a different characteristic to the cigar. Gives it a little bit of a bite as the smoke is carried through the alcohol vapors on the retrohale. So you're getting some of the burn of the spiciness from the cigar is enhanced by the burn that the alcohol offers. For those of you that aren't familiar with cognac, maybe you don't drink cognac, or maybe you do and you just aren't really familiar with how cognac is made, cognac is really it's a wine that's been further distilled. So this is a grape alcohol, as is the 2 shilling red wine. Once again, grape alcohol. Getting a little bit of leather. So I'm progressing through the final third. Very pleasant. Some creaminess coming through. A little bit of oiliness to the smoke. Very nice indeed. So I'll continue on, and I'll get into the nub, and we'll see what happens from there. So here I am at the nub. I'll go ahead and end this review. The Pinar Del Rio Habano Sun-Grown Liga Cubana, number 5, 5 by 54 Robusto. It's been a really pleasant cigar. I've given it a total score of 92.5 points. I've made no deductions anywhere from the appearance of the cigar. I gave it a total of 14.5 out of 15 points. My initial impressions, I gave it 13.5 out of 15 points. My initial lighting, I gave it 8 out of 10 points. Through the body, I gave it 56.5 out of 60 possible points. Very pleasing cigar. Fairly wide flavor profile. Nice smooth transitions. Creamy smoke. A little bit oily smoke. Coated the mouth nicely. So I thank you for once again watching Scorpion Cigar Reviews.